Breaking news! A news story recently came out that has everyone scratching their heads. But first, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay up to date on everything happening with the team. This was a bit of a shocker. The Browns had a tough opening against the Cowboys, with key players like Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, and even our offensive line struggling. But one guy who really stood out was Jaylon Darden. He gave us a much-needed spark on special teams. Remember that 28-yard punt return he had that set us up at the Dallas 46? That led to the first points of the game, a Dustin Hopkins field goal that put us up 3-0. And Darden didn't stop there. He racked up 97 yards on kick returns and 72 yards on punt returns. He was doing his job and doing it well, but then he was released just hours before our game against the Jaguars. So what's going on here? The Browns brought in James Proche II and Winston Reed to fill out the roster. Proche, who you may remember from last season, took over as punt returner after Donovan Peoples-Jones was traded. But let's be honest, his numbers weren't exactly shining. He averaged 9.0 yards on punt returns, compared to Darden's 14.4. It makes you wonder, is this really an upgrade? The team also elevated tight end Blake Whiteheart and offensive tackle Jermaine Ifedi to the active roster. But still, releasing Darden after his strong performance seems like a risky move. What do you think, Browns fans? Was letting Darden go the right decision, or could it come back to bite us later? Last week's game was tough, with the Browns struggling with penalties that killed our momentum against the Cowboys' defense. These small mistakes either stopped our drives or gave Dallas unnecessary chances to extend theirs. You know, it's frustrating to see our team fight hard, only to lose ground because of these penalties. And let's get specific, 4 of those offensive penalties were for illegal formations. Can you believe it? Even though Dallas declined one of them, this has been a hot topic in the NFL this season. The league has been cracking down on illegal formations, and teams were warned about it before the season even started. Basically, if you don't have 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, with qualified receivers on both ends, you're in trouble. Simple rule, but it's costing teams like ours. But here's some good news. Joel Bitonio said the team has been working hard this week to fix these pre-snap penalties. He admitted it was frustrating because these mistakes put us behind the chains, especially against a defense like Dallas. But he's confident they can fix these mistakes. Things like snap counts and alignment are fixable, and that's been a big focus during practice. Bitonio also mentioned that with Sunday being Jacksonville's home opener, the crowd is going to be loud and their defense is no joke. But the Browns are preparing for that too, practicing with silent counts and focusing on staying disciplined. Every play is a fresh start, and we can't afford to put ourselves in a hole with penalties. So, Browns fans, what do you think? Can we clean up the penalties and come out strong against the Jaguars? This is a crucial game for us, and we can't let silly mistakes get in the way. On a different note, there's a lot going on with Deshaun Watson right now. As everyone knows, Week 1 against the Cowboys didn't go as planned. Watson had one of the worst games of his career, throwing 2 interceptions, getting picked off 6 times, and finishing with a passer rating of 51.1. It was tough to watch, especially since we all know what he's capable of. But let's be real here, there were some tough personal issues he was dealing with off the field, too. Watson lost his father last Friday, and then one of his best friends, DeAndre Overton, on Saturday. That's a lot for anyone to deal with, let alone go into a high-pressure game. But Watson didn't use that as an excuse. He wanted to be there for the team, and when things didn't seem to get any worse, a new civil lawsuit was filed against Watson on Monday. The allegations are serious, and they come after Watson already settled with 23 other plaintiffs and served an 11-game suspension last year. He has vehemently denied these new allegations, and his attorney says they are confident he will be exonerated. The NFL has launched an investigation into this new case, and it is being led by Lisa Friel, the same person who handled the original investigation that resulted in Watson's suspension. The important thing here is that this new case falls under the previous sanctions, which means there may not be any new punishment, but that remains to be determined. But let's focus on what matters now, how the Browns are rallying around Watson. Myles Garrett, a team captain, made it clear that they support Watson no matter what. He talked about how the team has always looked out for each other, and that's exactly what they're doing now. Watson has been through a lot of personal struggles, and the team is doing everything they can to support him on and off the field. Denzel Ward also expressed his support, saying there's no room for distractions in the locker room. He stressed that people don't always know the full story and that it's important to show love and support, especially during tough times. Ward is confident the team is focused on what's next, and that's getting a win against the Jaguars on Sunday. Amari Cooper echoed that sentiment, saying what happens off the field stays off the field. Cooper isn't buying into the narrative that Watson is done. He knows Watson is his biggest critic, and that last week's game was just a bad day at the office. Football is full of ups and downs, and Cooper is confident Watson will bounce back. He knows the media tends to overreact, especially when it comes to a star quarterback, but that's the beauty of this game. There's always another week to prove yourself. Other players like Grant Delpit and Wyatt Teller have also come out in support of Watson. Delpit made it clear that as long as Watson is in the locker room with them, they will support him. Teller, on the other hand, took responsibility for the offensive line's struggles against the Cowboys, saying they didn't do enough to protect Watson. He's rooting for Watson to come back strong and silence all the naysayers. Even with all of this going on, Watson is focused on the task at hand, winning football games. He's heard from Browns owner and GM Andrew Berry, and they've made it clear that they support him and want him to focus on being the best quarterback he can be. And that's exactly what Watson plans to do. Speaking of football, the Browns have a tough game ahead of them against the Jaguars. Watson admits that the new offense is still a work in progress, and it will take time for everyone to gel. He's working with new pieces, and they're still figuring out what each of them is good at and what their identity as a team will be. But this week is a great opportunity to find out against a tough opponent in Jacksonville. It won't be easy. Watson will be facing some top-tier pass rushers in Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, and Arik Armstead. Plus, he'll likely be without starting left tackle Jed Wills Jr. and possibly Jack Conklin, so the offensive line will have to step up. But Watson is up for the challenge. He knows it may take a few weeks for everything to click, but he's confident this team can figure it out. And as long as the Browns rally around him, there's no doubt they'll come out stronger. So, Browns fans, what do you think? Can Watson bounce back from one of the worst games of his career and lead this team to a win on Sunday? Will the new offense finally click? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest Browns news. We've got a big game coming up, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Go Browns!